Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. The dangers of winter impacting humans and businesses alike.
A missing father and son rescued just in time from the bitter cold, and pipes bursting inside Rimrock Mall, sending water pouring from the ceiling.
Chief forecaster Bob McGuire tracking these sub-zero temperatures in the Q2 Weather Center tonight. Bob, we haven't even seen the worst of it yet.
Oh, boy, that's the truth. You know, it's going to be another night for putting another log on a fire and another blanket on the bed because it's going to be very cold. Take a look at this. These are our current temperatures. Right now in Billings, it's 2 below zero. A little farther to the north, it's 10 below at Jordan. Same thing over at Cutbank. Very chilly. Now, as you'll see here, this is what's going to happen tonight. Our forecast low in Billings. This is not wind chill. This is actual air temperature. 15 below zero for Billings, 16 below over Miles City. It'll be 27 below zero in Havre. And so let me show you how we're going to do the wind chill factor by tomorrow morning. It's going to be about 25 to 28 below zero in Billings. Elsewhere around the region could be as cold as maybe 30 to 40 below zero. That 30 to 40 below zero, that's in the forecast from the Billings National Weather Service. So it's going to be very cold and maybe a little breezy in the morning. So that's when it's going to be at its worst. We'll have the rest of your forecast in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks, Bob.
A Utah man and his 12-year-old son hiking south of Bozeman got lost and separated, making for one long, scary, cold night.
Search and rescue crews from Gallatin County and Big Sky dispatched around 6:30 last night to the Spanish Peaks area, about an hour and a half from Bozeman. Now, the pair was reported overdue from a hiking trip. 20 snowmobilers and skiers were involved in the search. The boy was found about 10 p.m. asleep in the snow between the main road and the Spanish Creek cabin. He says he was able to move more quickly through the snow but lost contact with his dad and became disoriented.
After the boy warmed up and became more coherent, he was able to use landmarks to help rescuers find his father. The father was found around 1:15 this morning near the Pioneer Falls Trail. Both were confused and suffering from hypothermia. They were quickly moved to an ambulance, then flown to the University of Utah Burn Center.
Blizzard conditions, it was below zero. It was just, you know, it's worst case scenario as far as weather, and they should have never been out there. They weren't equipped for being out in that weather, and they are just very, very lucky to be alive.
Gallatin County search and rescue crews were called out 16 times in January alone.
Well, frozen water pipes aren't uncommon during a cold snap, but they can make a big mess in your home or your business. Q2's Rob Griggs tracked down a larger than average problem today out at Rimrock Mall.
The cold weather once again creating some havoc at Rimrock Mall, and Darren Olson, marketing manager, so we had some pipes burst on us.
It's not exactly the water feature we were hoping to install here today, but yes, we did succumb to the grip of winter today.
Right. Okay, so this isn't a common issue, but we've had uncommonly cold weather. What does that do in terms of wanting to trouble check the rest of the system across the mall, and what should other owners of businesses think about?
Absolutely. Obviously, this was an unpleasant surprise for us, so making sure those pipes in the rooftops of your buildings, make sure you double check those. You know, it's not so bad if it's just 1-2 days of cold weather, but the extended period of time certainly makes it an issue for us.
It sure does. Well, I notice you guys have it well under control. The main entrance is the only one affected. The mall is still open for business. People can use all the other entrances?
Absolutely. There's, of course, the anchor entrances, Dillard's, men's and women's, JCPenney, and our east entrance, which is just behind Blaze Pizza.
All right. So if I stick around too long, Darren's going to put a mop in my hand because that's the kind of friendship that we have. Darren, thanks for taking time. I'm going to let you get back to the mess, okay?
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
For Rock Mall, let's pass it back to the desk.
All right, thanks, Rob. And Darren tells us an initial but conservative estimate in damages is $30,000. Now, crews are prepared to work through the night to make progress on restoring those damaged areas.
Firefighters in Montana are one step closer to getting a health and safety bill passed in this year's legislative session. A Senate committee passed the Firefighter Protection Act today, meaning that bill will move to the floor. It's something Montana firefighters have been fighting for a long time.
You know, people think, well, it can't happen to me. Well, it did.
Chuck Hagan spent nearly a quarter century fighting fires. He's been battling prostate cancer for the past year.
It goes 1 through 10, and I was a 7, which 10 is the worst, real aggressive.
Chuck isn't sure whether the danger he faced from exposure to smoke and other chemicals caused the cancer, but he now knows the chances of getting certain cancers are much higher in firefighters. In fact, his longtime boss at Lockwood Fire also had prostate cancer and did not survive.
We didn't think about all the dangers, smoke clear, let's get this stuff off, and You know, and now what I know now, I would have never done that, but.
I want to be super careful about it for myself, and then also my coworkers. Like, we're all friends and family, basically.
Lindsay Lambert is relatively new to the job of firefighting. Equipment has improved, and a lot of precautions are now taken to keep firefighters from being exposed to possible carcinogens, but there are still risks that come with the job. One reason why she and other firefighters from across the state are pushing for Senate Bill 160 to become law. That bill would shift some of the burden of proof for illnesses caused by fighting fires from patient to insurer.
So Senate Bill 160 advances 9-1.
The bill now heads to the Senate floor.
Cancer's awful in all aspects. It doesn't matter who gets cancer, but the fact that firefighters who've given their lives for this job are getting cancer because of the job and aren't getting the health care maybe, or the doctors that they need, the medical aid that they need, I think it would be super beneficial because, like I said, cancer's awful.
Well, several amendments were added, including one that would help protect insurance companies more. No word yet on when the bill will be heard on the Senate floor.
Well, one of the biggest of the big money issues before the state legislature is infrastructure. How much will the state pay and for what when it comes to government building projects across Montana? MTN's Mike Dennison tells us the status of these proposals and how the debate now includes a possible new planning and funding framework.
Right now, Montana lawmakers are considering a half dozen bills to authorize almost $360 million worth of building projects. That total includes $135 million in cash or cash authority for new state and university system buildings, renovation, and maintenance. Among these projects are $20 million to fix up state fishing access, parks, and other recreational sites, $12 million for maintenance and improvements at the state capitol complex and other buildings statewide, and $5 million for a new veterans nursing home in Butte. There's also $44 million in coal trust loans, mostly for big regional water projects in eastern Montana, and the big one, $160 million in bonded debt, which would pay for a remodeled Romney Hall on the MSU campus in Bozeman, a new State Historical Society building, and scores of water, wastewater, and bridge projects in smaller towns all over the state. But state borrowing requires approval by 2/3 majority of each house, and for several sessions now, a conservative bloc of Republicans has blocked bonding bills for infrastructure. That's led some Republicans to propose a new process for deciding state building projects.
After the last bonding bill failed again, I said, okay, we've got to figure out a different way to do this because it's the same old arguments.
Moore is preparing a bill that would create a new fund with specific streams of revenue and financial triggers for how the state can invest in new buildings. Republican Representative Mike Hopkins of Missoula, who chairs a panel that reviewed the building plans, says it resembles a vetting process already in place for many smaller projects.
We want to take that system and we want to attach it to the overall conversation around infrastructure in the state of Montana.
Moore also says creating this process may encourage some who've opposed bonding bills to support one this session.
But I still think it'll help the comfort level even this session because this will go into effect in the next biennium.
Democrats say they may support the concept, but that a bonding bill needs to pass this session.
We're willing to work hand in hand to get the strategic plan done, but they got to be willing to work with us to get some of these major projects done that have been sitting and just getting more expensive every day.
Republicans, however, already say they're likely to scale back Governor Steve Bullock's big bonding bill. The Historical Society building money is likely to come out and end up in a standalone bill. And the Romney Hall remodel at MSU spokesman Tracy Ellig says it's well past time to get it done and hopes that enough lawmakers agree.
The state has not passed a bonding bill since 2005 for major building vertical construction. It's been 14 years. I think over time people have seen that that's an issue and it needs to be addressed.
Some initial committee votes on infrastructure bills will happen on Thursday, but that's just the first step. Don't be surprised if this issue comes down to the last day of the session. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And you can see Mike's more detailed report on those infrastructure bills at ktvq.com.
Coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, the call to action was early this morning, but our viewers rose to the task and helped save children's lives. We're going to show you how.
And in sports, Scott shows us why this Glendive wrestler is so serious about this weekend state tournament.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade, and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.